Okay, we're going to do a breakdown of the Reverend Gary Davis song, Right Now. I'm sure there's other video lessons out there. Ernie Hawkins has a tablature. I'm not sure if Stephen Grossman did this one. But I'm kind of going to come at it from like a little different point of view possibly. Just the way I broke it down before I even saw the tab. Anybody that's seen my lessons know that I preach learn the style of Reverend Gary Davis. Learn before you try to learn the actual individual songs. It will help you tremendously so you don't get locked into the tab. I think tab is fine. It's like a roadmap. But too many players just get locked into trying to play that stuff note for note and they miss the big picture of the tune. So I'm going to go over the basic structure of this song, the chords, and kind of how I do it, which is maybe close to the way those other guys do it. I'm not taking this recording. I think I learned it off, I also don't remember. I think I learned it off of a live recording. It might not be the same one that Ernie did the tab from. But it's a great song because it's got like everything that Reverend Gary Davis does in his Holy Blues. It's really sets the stage for especially his tunes in the key of D. So it's a 16-bar tune. It kind of starts off almost like a 16-bar blues. There's 4 bars of D, then there's a couple bars of G, and then after that is where it kind of goes its own way. So there's a couple chords you're going to need to know for this. And one of them is the D chord. I'm going to shift this, hopefully, which is with the F sharp on the 4th string. Now, if you can make what I call the full D chord, which is the C shape, moved up 2 frets, that is awesome. If you can't do that chord, then, I hate to say cheat, but you can get away with just this. So what those top 4 strings, remember with Davis, he's really about counterpoint. That's lines moving in the opposite direction, like the bass and a treble or a middle line. And it's also that middle voice, in my opinion, that you need to bring out. Like there's usually a line on the 4th string in a lot of his tunes that's its own individual voice that people don't really focus on a lot. The other thing is this D shape right there, okay? That, you're going to shift it up 1 fret, move your 2nd finger to the 3rd string, and that is the G. It's the F shape moved up 2 frets. So you got to get comfortable making that move. You want that to be really smooth. It's not that difficult, in my opinion, once you get that D chord down if you're not used to it, okay? So it's this F sharp going up to the G. That's the leading tone. And I'm pinching and strumming. Again, I use 1 finger and the thumb. If you want to use 2 fingers, that's fine. As long as you're happy with your own sound, you don't need to go crazy. I just think you get the sound of the Reverend playing with the same amount of fingers as he did. So you've got to get this down. So I would practice this D shape sliding up to the G shape. Now, if you can get your little finger here to get the low D note, 5th fret of the 5th string, that is awesome. But a lot of people just can't make that chord, and I understand why. It's a bitch of a chord. So that gives you a fuller sound, and then you would go to the G with the bass over here. So it's pinch, strum, pinch, strum. Now he might individually pick notes off these 2 chords, and I suggest you do eventually, but just, the bass and the strum, it's almost like a chord melody thing. That's really what he's about in a lot of his Holy Blues. So if you do that D, and you can see how I'm just strumming down. So you can get the melody that way, or you could bring it out any way that you want. You're putting your little finger down here on the A, 5th fret of the 1st string. So he does that in a ton of songs, and then he also might do it on the 2nd string. So you want to be able to do that easily practice that on its own. I'm really big on breaking down songs to the simplest little component of things so that you don't have to think about it when you're playing a song. Remember, this is a song that you're going to sing to. So you want to be focusing on, the lyrics, trying to sing it, and the playing is just like really backing you up. Now, there is a groove to this, like, so you can count it as like 4/4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you're gonna need to have that down. You're also going to need to be able to make his big dominant 7th chord. So in this case, it's going to be at the 5th fret, and that's that guy right there. Okay, so to make this a little easier to understand, there is a C chord. We put our little finger on the B flat. That makes it a dominant 7th chord. So we're going to revoice that, bring our little finger down to the 1st string, bring our 3rd finger down to the 3rd string, so the top 4. We're just revoicing the chord, and then if you can cover both of those 5th and 6th string with your thumb, great. If you can just get the 6th string, you can get away with that. I kind of roll my hands sometimes depending on whether I'm picking the melody or the bass. So right there, that's a C dominant 7th chord that resolves to the F. All right? This is one of the reasons that makes the Reverend so great, is he can play in any key. He plays all over the fingerboard. So if we take that shape that I just showed you and move it up here, it is now a D 7th chord, and it resolves to the G, which is the F shape, moved up to the G position. So this song is in the key of D. So when he goes to that dominant 7th chord right there, which is D7, that's actually what we would call a 5 of 4, meaning it's the 5/7 chord of G, and G is the 4 chord in the key of D. So that's like basic theory stuff there. There could be 5 of 5s, it could be 5 of 4. A lot of his tunes, the progressions are, that's 5 of 5 stuff. So anyway, you've got to be able to make that chord. So however you want to practice that chord, I suggest, it's easier to play up higher on the neck than 1st position, because all your chords are harder to make in 1st position because you're down by the nut and there's more tension. Okay, so you need to be able to make that chord right there, and that's going to resolve to the G. All right. The other chord that you're going to make, but I don't bring it in right off the bat, is his big G7th chord. So the big G7th chord, it's like from Search My Heart. Just there's your basic G7th chord. So he's going to revoice that. So he's playing 5 strings. So he's got the F. He'll bring his little finger on the D. He brings the 3rd finger down to the F. And then if you can cop the thumb, G, awesome. So that's like Search My Heart chord. All right. So that chord you will bring in, but in the beginning stages, I just use 2 fingers here. Okay? And then down the road, like as a variation, you can make it the 7th chord. And you really don't even need the 1st string in this particular case with this song. So with a lot of his big full chords, I hate to use the term cheat, but everybody's, nobody's hands are like his were. And it's hard to make some of these chords. So you got to, do what you got to do so that you can have fun playing the tune. All right? So if we go to the beginning again, it starts on the 3rd beat. I kind of feel this song in 2, but if we were going to count to 4, okay, it would be 1, 2, 3. And he repeats this 4 times, basic. So that's your 4 measures, just like it would be a 12-bar blues. First 4 measures in whatever your home key is. So the one thing that I do is I mix this up all the time. So right here it's pinch 1 and 5 as far as the strings, then F, G, so there's this bass line that's going A, G, F sharp, D. And what that is very similar to is crucifixion, which is, if I get it right. So this is the bass line for crucifixion, which is in G, I believe. Now, if he had this tuned to a drop D tuning, this bass line would go down to a low D, but it doesn't. So it comes back up to the 4th string. And that 4th string, to me, the open 4th string, is very important in tying this song together. So you have the melody line ascending, E, F, F sharp, and your bass line is going down, A, G, F sharp. Doesn't get any cooler than that. And then he's got the D, open D to tie this together. So hopefully you can see this. Now, you could pinch a lot of this stuff, you can syncopate it, you can change it up. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. That's why I say learn the style. Learn to do this little guy here. So it's like pinch. So there it's totally syncopated. So I'm going to try to play that through you a couple times besides the first one. Depending on the recording, you might kind of focus more, or he might have focused more on the treble strings, but I think that bass line is the happening part of this tune. A lot of his Holy Blue stuff, he has like a walking bass, like I said, in Crucifixion. So it's very similar to that, just a different key. So, and you can do pinch, pinch, pinch. Mix that up and have fun with that, play around with that, as long as you're doing it for 4 measures, all right? But that open D, to me, links it to the G chord, which is now flips the counterpoint so that it's a descending melody line. F, E, D. And the bass line is coming up. B. So it's brilliant the way that he plays the 1 chord. He's got the lines going one way with the G chord. He flips it the other way. So that's going to sound like this, hopefully. And after he plays that B, I go to the open D string. And that kind of brings it, makes it fluid from the D chord. Now, you, as a variation, that's where you would go to that big G 7th chord I was talking about. So, right there. And I'm not really picking, I'm kind of strumming down. And remember, with his bass note, I mean, that descending bass line is one thing, but when he, a lot of times, it's more just strumming through whatever the primary note of the chord is and getting other notes, okay, off the chord, like that. So if you have your thumb there, this gives you 3 options to end that little run. You could have the open D, open D. You could have the F, or you could have the G as your primary notes, you know, so after that B. Okay, so, or playing that open D, ringing through, and then you're going to do this G run twice. It's 2 measures. So the first time, if you want, play the open D. If you want to play the G7th right off the bat, that's fine. But I like to hold stuff back so that you have some place to go. so that you're not playing it exactly the same all the time. And that's true with the beginning line. If you're pinching more, 3 pinches in a row, then when you start to syncopate it, it's like, hey, that's really cool. We're moving someplace. We're going someplace with the tune, as opposed to playing it exactly the same every time through, which gets boring for the listener and is definitely boring for me as a player. So let me play these first 6 measures. And focus on that open D string, just listening to it. It's you want to pick out different voices. I mean, to me, this is 3 voices to this beginning. You have the melody line, the bass line, you have that middle drone kind of line. So let's see if I can get this going. Yep, there, I messed up. All right, here we go. So that open D just takes you through. So there's the 6 measures of the tune right there. So after the G is played twice, then it's really like a G7th with your thumb here, open E, 3rd string G, and then you're going to the D. And I make sure to use my 2nd finger on that because you're walking in to the D chord. Whether it's the 4-string D or the 5-string D, if you can get it. So this is the first time he goes like off the beaten path, so to speak. So it's this way. Okay, so that would be 3 and 4 and 1, 2. So he starts like he's going to go to a full measures of D, but what he does is he throws in that little lick thing that I showed you in the beginning, the D to G. So he speeds up the chord change from being very slow and drawn out of a D to a G. He makes a quick change from D to G in 1 measure. So it would be, now you can pick that or you can strum through it. As long as you get that melody, and then he's back to the D. Then he's back kind of like to the beginning. So that's, you know, it starts on the 3rd beat, but that's basically, let's see, how many, it's like beep, 2 measures, then it's just like the beginning. Okay, now I play a D7th here, some people play a D, but I think it's a D7th because you're lined up for the next little unique line of the piece, so to speak, which is 1st and 3rd strings, a pinch to the open E. So you're just taking away fingers. It's on the pinch, 1st and 3rd string, 1st string open, 3rd string open. Okay, so it's like this. So that's basically 2 measures of D there, okay? And then that's when he goes to the big D7th chord. Now, what he does on the big D7th chord, and I play it different, is the Davis roll. So this, when I said this song has all the elements of his music, the Davis roll is really critical to playing his stuff. You can put it on almost any chord, and it's just going to like make it, it's like Davis seasoning. It's going to just make it sound like Davis. To do the Davis roll, this is where it is, in my opinion, you need index finger and thumb, because it's the thumb dropping down that gives you the accents you want. So what is the Davis roll? And there's lessons on this. So it's thumb, index, thumb, thumb, index, index, thumb, index. So that little pattern, A 8 notes, whether they're eighth notes or however you want to, divide them up as far as rhythmic notation. Thumb, index, thumb, index, index, thumb, index. And he'll move the thumb on different strings, and you can do this on any set of strings, and it'll just sound Davis. So when you make that big D7th chord, which again is the 5 dominant 7th chord of the 4 chord in this tune, 5 of 4, that's it. So whether he's bringing his thumb to these lower notes or just like bass and everything else is on the top 4 strings, whatever works for you. I never play it the same. Every time through, I'll hit different strings. I don't even think about it. As long as I'm playing the Davis roll, it sounds good. Back to the G for one measure, which I went over earlier. So this is little finger picking out the melody. There I went to the second string. I mean, that's straight out of very similar, right? Okay, so there's tons of songs there he uses this. So we've got the one measure. I know I'm all over the place here, but back to the G. So it's really a measure and a half of G there. And this is where he's like speeding up the harmonic process, which is classic development in a tune. It makes it like you're not just stagnant, you're going someplace. The classical composer who was a master of this was Beethoven. I mean, just the way he could develop themes. I'm not comparing Davis to Beethoven, but they're both pretty cool dudes. So pinch, pinch. Now here's where you can go a bunch of different ways. You need a half a measure of D. So you could go with the D like this, right? Or you could just play this partial D. Now using your second finger here is cool because he's going to a B minor chord. Okay, so it's a half a measure of a B minor, then half a measure or 2 beats of the A7th, which is this guy right here. Okay, so it's and then he's going to the D with the G. So whether or not that really makes sense the way I explained it, you want to break this down. So obviously the B minor, I mean, you could play it. I can't wrap my thumb around to get the B with the 5th string on this, which he could do, right? So as with any guitar playing, the least amount of movement. If there's a common note in chords, you want to keep that finger there. So B minor is the minor of D, okay? So you can make the D like this, you could make the D like this. So if he's coming into that measure from G, so it's D, here's our D, right? You're already set up with that D shape, which I showed you, to go to the B minor. There's just one note that's changed. Your A goes to the B, right there. There's not a lot of difference. It's one pitch. So if you want to bring out the bass line, personally, I have to bar this. Or, which doesn't sound as good. So you have plenty of variations here as long as you know what the chord is. All right? So towards the end of the tune, after we come back, this is like 4 measures from the end, we have the G. Then we have, that's a measure and a half of G. We got to play a D. You could just take this shape, slide it down, open up to E so you get that descending line. Your B to the A7th, back to home. Now, I've been playing this song for, I don't know, long time. And to me, even though there's just a half measure of the B minor and a half measure, 2 beats, you know, the A7th, I feel it as like a full measure because it's such a cool change. So some of the times that I'm playing through, I will play it like he does with 2 beats on B minor, 2 beats on the A7th. But I'm going to play it here where I extend the B minor and the A7th chord. So it's... And there's no law that says you can't add a beat, take away a beat. All the old blues guys did it. You know, as long as your lyrics fit in there, you know, then that's fine. You know, if you're playing in a band, it's one thing. But by yourself, it's not that big of a deal. So I just, you could have that descending line from B to A, which I will do half the time. But you could also have that line on the 4th string, which is F sharp to E. So there's 2 different, you know, I hate to say ways to play it, but you don't want to be locked into one particular way. And as I'm looking at the clock here, I'm close to a half hour, you know, shooting the shit here. So let me just play it through once for you guys. And I'm not even going to the solo break, but the solo break is... It goes up to this D here, and that's like part of the Davis roll, and I bar off there, okay, and that's the big 7th chord, which is like your A7th. He'll bring it up here to the C7th, and up here it's the D7th. Okay, so it's not that easy chord. He's got the thumb here, but to me it's not a big deal. So when you do the break, and I like to bring out that open D again that we had in the very beginning. So it kind of like that open D string to me is something to focus on, at least when you're learning the song. Then you're right back into the rest of the tune. So it's basically, the break is 1, 2, 3, like 4 measures, which would be like the opening 4 measures, except he just goes up the neck. So you can do, you know, whatever you want to do there. So let me just play this once through, and, you know, look, listen to the Reverend play it. There's a couple recordings out there. You know, I never say I can play like him, but I like to play in his style, and it's just so much fun and freedom. So here we go. So it'd be like 1, 2, and I kind of feel this in 2, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That great because I was thinking about something that I actually didn't bring out earlier. After the G section, measures 5 and 6, when he does the G, that part, so he ends after the G for 2 measures, then he does this part, which I already showed you. What's really cool about that line, remember the opening line. He does it one octave higher. A, G, F sharp, G. So really focus on bringing that out. So you're going to have to get your little finger there, or you could cheat probably, and get the open D string. Like that. But that's one octave higher. So he's got that descending bass line, counterpoint line, and he takes up an octave. It's just brilliant. Except here he's got to jump up the octave because he doesn't have the low D. And that's the last hidden secret of this tune. Except you mix it up, you're going to strum through some of the time. So in recapping, this has the counterpoint that Davis loves to do. It's all about. He's got that middle voice, which is super cool. He's got the Davis roll. He's got the big G7th chord. He's got the other G7th chord, which is the G7th chord. Here it's the D7th chord. So it's got all the elements of his music. So when you're trying to play this, I mean, don't think of picking individual notes. It's more like all his stuff. You're strumming through the strings. So let me just see if I can play this again. You can see my right hand how I'm doing this. So hopefully that'll help some of you guys. And there's a half-hour lesson for you. Enjoy.